A horror game that I fondly remember back in 2012 was Slender Man. Originally just called Slender Man, eventually turned into Slender Man the 8 Pages because many clones of the game started to pop up. It wasn't that the game was the originality of Slender Man, but it was the first game to kick off the character, even though he's existed years prior to that. And a lot of big YouTubers played this game, and I think that helped boost its relevance at the time. I get quite nostalgic when looking back at these videos and people playing them, because personally I really had a connection to horror games. Horror games give off a vibe that sometimes isn't there in other games. The VHS style especially has become a very common trend in games, and I think the reason for that is because people get nostalgic for these older games that we played. And on the tier of Slender Man, it was one of those games having that low grade quality mixed with the static gave for a good jump scare. That being said, the game's mechanics is somewhat difficult. Your character is presumably, 4 feet tall, can't even reach the side of a car, and you're somewhere in the woods. You don't know where, but it's a complete remote area, no other people around, and that makes it even more terrifying. The more pages you collect, the intensity of the music builds up. Originally just starting off as this thumping sound, but turning into these static, magnetic waves that become overbearing in every step you take at the corner. Slender Man is always there. I think this game does really well the intense buildup of the jump scare factor. Jump scares a really hard area in horror games and in horror movies to achieve the right way. But I think Slender Man does it right because it's not always direct. He doesn't seem to be a direct threat, but there's always that lingering idea that he could be attacking you at any moment when you're not looking. It's the same reason that why looking at SCP-173 is so creepy, because it's like, well shit, I don't know when he's gonna move. And if I need to go somewhere, how am I gonna get somewhere? Do I just piss on the statue if I need to use the bathroom? Do I piss on Slender Man? I looked up some areas of an art of the map, and it seemed a lot smaller than I reimagined, especially from looking back at it now. There wasn't that much. You had a couple simple structures, including a cross section of walls, which you don't really know why those are there. Then you have an abandoned vehicle and farm equipment and propane tanks. But the rest of the map is the forest, so you don't know where you're going, and these are the only landmarkers that can guide you to where you need to be. And plus, since you don't have a map, the only reference you can go to if you're not cheating and looking online is these locations. So finding the pages, unless you've played this game a million times, it's really difficult to. And that adds to the difficulty. It's difficult, but it's also scary. It seems as if every time you're playing the game, you're always not sure what to expect, except getting jump scared. It's just, when do I get jump scared? It never fails to still jump scare me to this day if I'm wearing headphones and my volume is all the way up, and also having many clones to it that I played on the App Store that I'm so proud of. There's this one called Slender Man Dungeon that I believe was really underrated, and you're a character in the dungeon, but it was completely mobile. It looked pretty good for its day, but man, the footsteps were awful. The only clue to a story that we get is the pages, if we're not including the creepypasta. If you were to play this without the creepypasta or the Wikipedia to explain anything, the only reference you get is the 8 different pages that are displayed. They're pretty basic, but I think they seem relatively generic, but the fact that in one of them, and the follows, I think that puts Slender Man's arc in an entire nutshell. You're in the woods with the tree, and follows because he follows you around. Or don't look or it takes you. That's probably the most menacing one, because when it takes you, you don't know what happens to you. I mean, presumably you die, but if Slender Man is some sort of alien, then maybe you're being teleported to some other place. The graphics in this game for 2012 is actually pretty decent. It could be a lot worse than what it is, but this was also a turning point for indie games, and around the same time that people started to play more games on YouTube, and horror games were especially popular, and that's, I think, why you see a lot of these big YouTubers and small ones too playing this. What makes Slender Man a threat is it's not only the way he attacks you. He's a tall 7-foot figure with no face. When we see something without a face or a mask or mannequin, they're so creepy, because if there's no expression there, how can you really know the true intention? Same with clowns. Clowns always look like they're happy, but are they happy? That's the thing. Presumably, we don't know the motive of Slender Man, and he slowly drives you insane and eventually killing you. We know that he is a type of cryptid or demon of sorts, but beyond that, there isn't much to address his humanoid appearance. Somewhat humanoid, but not human enough to be human, and that makes him uncanny. When you go inside of the brick building, that's also especially creepy, because the sharp corners that you don't actually know, he could be in there, and unlike the woods, you can't really run away. You can only go back the path you came from, or you're screwed. He's the only enemy, but I don't think there would need to be anymore, because he definitely puts on a show. Would I recommend this game? Well, if you don't like horror, I would not recommend it. There's a daytime mode, but honestly, the graphics on it look even worse. The shading is pretty terrible, and I believe it was meant to be played in its natural setting at night. But if you're an avid horror fan and you want to experience it and you somehow haven't, I would definitely say check it out. Are you 12 years late to the party? Yes. Like the Slender Man movie was 6 years ago, was 6 years late, and I can't believe that movie's already 6 years old. That movie was terrible. I watched it, and I swear Hollywood can't get anything. I don't think it was, but why can't people get it right? That's the thing. But when you know you have a big production movie made of you, you're doing something right. When I think of a creepypasta, he's the first monster I usually think of. Him, the Rake, and Jeff the Killer. Obviously, there's many more out there, but Slender Man has carried so much of horror in the past 10 years, and even if he's not as popular as he used to be, you'll always see him pop up in artwork, or you'll hear about him at some point within a year. I guarantee it. He's not this unknown thing. At one point he was, but that changed very quickly, I think, when PewDiePie played the game, and he has some hilarious reactions.
Alright. This girl needs to work out. She can run for more than... Whoa. Whoa! What the hell is that?
There's also some questionable Roblox versions that I played, and strangely enough, there was one that took place in Area 51. But there's also quite a few Slender Man games on Steam, and the first 5 results, there's a few. That says a lot. I think if you're an avid fan of horror yourself, I would really like to hear your comments of how you discovered the Slender Man and what makes him scary or not scary to you. I remember scaring my little cousin with Slender Man by hiding pages, and I feel really bad about it, but it was effective. And it was effective as a kid, scaring smaller children. And so I have a lot of twisted but nice remembrance of one of my favorite horror games that isn't that replayable because there's not much to do. But it is a one-time experience, and checking out a couple of different of them, it's like the Backrooms, where it's like, all right, you've played it 15 times, it starts to lose its charm afterwards. So I would say the downside is revisiting this game more than once isn't really worth it, especially since there's everything to see practically in the first 5 minutes, and most of your shock is going to come from that point. I think horror games have come a long way since then. We've had Five Nights at Freddy's, we've had Phasmophobia. I would consider Lethal Company a horror game too. It's a bit different, but we've had a lot of different experimentation with the genre, and you could even call it a subgenre at this point of genres within horror. And it's pretty amazing knowing that there's so much out there that you can choose from. And creepypastas are some of the most varied and dissected and played horror games ever. And I know the SCP Foundation isn't a creepypasta, but also very popular, made by unprofessional writers. It's the internet, the communities that bring Slender Man, these characters together, or these scary stories. And heck, they can write way better than the big studios sometimes, I swear. So yeah, this was my rant. It's snowing really bad. We're getting 3 feet of snow in April where I live. That's not at all normal. And so I'm gonna have cabin fever for the next few days, and screw it. Let's make a video on something that's really actually goddamn creepy. Okay, I'll see you all in the next video, and have a good rest of your day. See ya.